The noise of the market suddenly vanished in the middle of the confusion of voices, laughter, and the smell of food. A short, low, familiar whistle cut through the air like a hot knife. Isabel stopped in the middle of the path, the basket almost falling from her hands. Her heart beat so hard it hurt in her chest. She didn't need to look. She didn't need to think. Her whole body recognized it before her mind did. It was him. After so many years, after the pain that had almost split her in two, after the waiting that never ended, it was his whistle. And she knew in that second that everything she had kept in her chest was still alive. This is the scene that tightens the chest the most. It is the instant when time stops and the soul recognizes what reason tried to bury. Isabel and Mateus grew up on the same piece of land. It wasn't a big city. It was a quiet place, surrounded by fields and a river that flowed gently. From the time they were small, his whistle was the signal. When he wanted her to come, he would stop under the window or at the gate, let out 3 short notes. Always the same. Isabel would hear it from any corner of the house and run out, her heart light. Sometimes she pretended she hadn't heard, just so he would repeat the sound. And when she finally appeared, he would smile in that quiet way she already knew by heart. They married young. The love was simple and strong. Mateus worked the land. Isabel took care of the house and a small garden. In the early years, life seemed good. They laughed easily. He kept whistling to call her. Even after they were married, it was their way of saying, "I'm here," without needing many words. There were mornings when the whistle came before the sun rose. Isabel would wake up, go to the door, and find Mateus already standing, looking at the horizon. She would approach in silence, and he would simply hold out his hand. In those moments, the whole world seemed to fit between the two of them. Happiness, however, did not remain intact. A long drought came. The earth hardened. The money disappeared. Then came the illness of Mateus's mother. He had to go work far away, in another place, to earn enough for the medicine and to keep the house. The separation hurt more than either of them expected. In the days leading up to his departure, Isabel walked through the house as if every corner were saying goodbye to her. She put away his clothes with care, prepared the food he would take, and at night she stayed awake just to hear his breathing beside her. On the night he left, Mateus stopped at the gate and whistled the 3 notes. Isabel ran to him. They hugged without saying much. His body trembled a little. Hers did too. He promised to return. She promised to wait, and the two of them swore fidelity to each other, not with grand words, but with the steady gaze of those who know what they are promising. When he walked away, Isabel stood in the same place until she could no longer see his figure on the path. Only then did the tears come, hot and silent. The first months were of letters. Then the letters became more spaced out. Mateus's work was hard and far away. Isabel was left alone with the house, the dry earth, and the silence. The whistle no longer came. Sometimes at night, she would stop near the window and imagine hearing it, but she only heard the wind. On some early morning, she would go out to the gate and stand there as if the sound could cross the distance and reach her. It never did. Still, she kept going back. The suffering began quietly and grew. Loneliness tightened her chest. The bills tightened even more. Isabel worked as much as she could. She sold what she had. She saved every coin. And above all, she kept the promise. Many people around her said she should move on, that Mateus might not return, that life did not wait. Isabel listened, but she did not give in. Her fidelity was not stubbornness. It was what remained of the love they had built together. On especially difficult nights, she would press her hand to her chest and quietly repeat the 3 notes, as if her own heart still knew the way back. This first chapter ends with Isabel alone, her hand on her chest, still hearing in the silence the 3 notes that no longer came. The pain was planted. The waiting was too. The years passed heavier than Isabel had imagined. Mateus sent news from time to time. He worked, saved, faced difficulties. Once he fell ill, far from home. Another time, the money he sent was lost along the way. Every delay was a new stab in her chest. Isabel read the letters that arrived with trembling hands, as if the words might dissolve in the air. She kept each one in a small box near the bed. And sometimes she read them again at night, just to feel that he still existed somewhere. Isabel never told anyone how much she cried at night. During the day, she was steady. She took care of the house, planted what the land still gave, helped the neighbors when she could. But inside, the pain grew. There were days when the longing was so strong it hurt physically. There were nights when she wondered if the promise still made sense. And even so, she did not give up. On some early mornings, she would sit in the same place where she used to hear the whistle and stay there in silence, as if time could fold and bring him back for just a moment. Her fidelity became almost a second heart. When someone tried to approach with other intentions, Isabel answered with calm and firmness. I already have someone. It was not pride, it was the truth she carried. People sometimes looked at her with pity, others with impatience. Isabel did not argue, she simply continued. Inside, however, there were moments when the loneliness pressed so hard that she had to hold the edge of the table so as not to give in. On those days, she quietly repeated his name, as if the sound could cross the distance. Mateus, on the other side, also suffered. The work was heavy. The distance was cruel. He thought of her every day. He kept the whistle as a secret only theirs. Sometimes, alone, he would let out the 3 notes into the air, just to remember the sound of her voice answering. The longing did not push him away. On the contrary, every difficulty reminded him why he was fighting, to return and fulfill what he had promised. There were nights when the exhaustion was so great he almost gave up, but then he remembered her gaze at the gate on the day of departure, and he found the strength to continue. One day, after a long time, the news stopped coming. Isabel waited a week, then 2, then a month. Fear took hold. Had he given up? Had something bad happened? The pain of that uncertainty was the worst of all. She almost broke. But even so, she did not let go of the promise. She kept waiting, even when hope seemed only ash. Sometimes in the middle of the day, she would stop what she was doing and stand listening to the wind, as if she might still hear the 3 notes. She never did, but she kept listening. This second chapter is the middle of the story. It is the place where suffering and pain deepen. It is where fidelity is truly tested, and it is also where love shows itself stronger than distance, because neither of them gave their heart to another person. They remained united by the promise, even without seeing each other. It was on an ordinary market day. Isabel had gone early to sell the little she had harvested and to buy the essentials. The place was full. People talking, children running, the smell of bread and fruit. She walked with the basket, her gaze tired, her heart still carrying the weighting of so many years. Her steps were slow, as if her body already knew how to carry the weight of loneliness. From time to time she stopped, adjusted the basket on her arm, and continued, without much hurry, without much hope of anything different. Suddenly, in the middle of all that noise, the sound came. 3 short notes. Low. Exact. The same whistle as always. Isabel stopped. The whole world seemed to fall silent. Her heart beat so hard she could barely breathe. She didn't need to look around. She didn't need to ask. Her body recognized it before her mind did. It was him. After everything, it was his whistle. Her hands trembled. The basket almost fell. For a second, she doubted her own hearing, as if desire could have invented the sound. But the 3 notes still echoed inside her, clear and true. She turned slowly. On the other side of the market, among the people, stood Mateus, thinner, more marked by time and work, but with the same gaze. He saw her, and his face opened in a mixture of relief and fear, as if he still could not believe she was there. Isabel felt her legs weaken. The years of waiting seemed to accumulate all at once in her chest. Isabel let go of the basket. Her steps were quick, almost running. When they came close to each other, they needed few words. He pulled her to his chest, She buried her face in his shoulder. They both cried. It was not a cry of weakness. It was the cry of those who could finally release the weight they had carried for years. Mateus held her tightly, as if afraid she might disappear again. Isabel felt his heart beating against hers, fast and real. Mateus told her, with a choked voice, that he had returned. That the work was over, that the money he had saved was little, but enough to start again, that he had never stopped loving her, that the whistle was the only thing that still connected him to her on the hardest days. Isabel listened to every word as if it were water after a long thirst. The tears kept falling, but now they were different. Isabel told him that she had waited, that the pain had been great, that many times she had almost given up, but could not, that her fidelity was not a pretty virtue. It was the only way to keep breathing. He looked at her for a long time, as if wanting to memorize every detail of her face after so many years. Then he only nodded, unable to say anything more. That day, in the market, they truly found each other again, not as two people who had loved each other in the past, but as two people who had kept the love for each other through the pain. Their union returned stronger. The happiness that came afterward was neither light nor easy. It was a conquered happiness, a happiness that knew the price of waiting. They returned to the house. Mateus whistled again at the gate, just to hear her answer, and Isabel answered with her whole heart. The sound filled the air again, as in the old times, but now it carried the weight of everything they had lived, and for the first time in many years, the silence of the house stopped hurting. This story is not only about a whistle, it is about what the heart keeps when the world tries to make us forget. It is about the fidelity that needs no audience. It is about the pain that does not cancel love, but deepens it. It is about the union that survives when words fail and only the memory of a simple sound remains. Many people give up when the waiting hurts. Many people exchange the promise for something easier. But there are people who continue, who keep, who recognize, even after years, the sound that belongs only to them. And when that recognition happens, life gains again a meaning that seemed lost. May we learn from Isabel and Mateus not to give their heart away. May we value those who stay, those who wait, those who return. And may we, when we hear the whistle of our own story, whether it is a sound, a look, a memory, know how to recognize it and run in the right direction. If this story touched you, if your chest tightened at some moment, if the tears came, or if your heart grew calm at the end, leave your comment. Tell what you felt. Tell what you felt, and if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe. That way you won't miss the next stories full of emotion, truth, and hope. Thank you for listening to the end.